This is the Jug O Sip podcast. With Will and Grace is, I don't think it's even intended to be toxic. I think it lacks so much substance it comes off toxic.
But this is what I don't understand. Because my experience with the gay community was primarily shaped around the Pride movement that happened that led to gay marriage being legalized.
You're asking, basically you want to know why gay people and LGBT people support Will and Grace, right?
Well, my initial logic is representation and access was an issue back then. And I totally get it. You didn't get channels like one of my favorite channels being Logo. You didn't get channels like Logo until years after bullshit like that. I can explain
this. This is so.
I mean, you had Bravo, but come on,
you're right.
You
representation
really
was important in the 90s and early 2000s. Now, a lot of reasons why. Well, the series failed after the new series failed after one season. That just shows you where society is.
That was only one season. I thought it was like 2 or 3.
It was only 1 or 2. It wasn't. It just started last year. The reason it failed so badly is because, most of us as individuals, fans of the show, have evolved.
Yeah.
Grown past certain mental phases, and really only watched it because we liked the old show. And I've heard several people say they didn't really like the show now.
Yeah.
Not just me. Our friend Katie even said it.
Yeah.
We don't need that kind of representation anymore. We have so much now, and we're only gaining more, that we have now positive gay icons to look at. Like, even, for example, Zelda Spellman of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina has been involved with men and women on the show.
Okay.
That's something to look at. Or, there's so many more modern shows that are representing gay people and queer people and the LGBT community as a whole better. So we've grown past the need for Will and Grace.
Okay.
People were loyal to the show and they watched it. That's another reason why people watched it. But I think also some people haven't mentally grown, so they still think Will and Grace is great. So there's a few reasons why people still would watch it.
You're saying there's some people that were just as toxic as those characters were, and they have remained so.
If you notice, there's a lot of shows out there that are toxic, and people were like, "Oh my God, I love this character so much." I mean, look at all the people who try to identify with Harley Quinn and be like, "I'm Harley Quinn."
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Back in the 90s, it was one thing to hear your friends be like, "I'm such a Jack" or "I'm such a Karen." But now if you say that shit, you're just you're a terrible person.
Yeah, my ex would say that too, that she was, what she specifically said, because she had a friend back then, and they were referred to each other as Jack and Karen.
I had that kind of relationship with Conchetta.
Yeah.
But the thing is, since then, Conchetta, me, and a bunch of other fans have grown with society. The culture is more respectful to the gay community. We're trying to be better people every day in society. So just the shit that worked in the 90s just doesn't work anymore. I mean, this is a whole other show, but it's the same thing with Sex and the City, as I've touched on many times.
Right. Yeah. Can we go into that?
Very briefly, because I'd like to do a whole episode about that at some point, but
don't worry about the time, because this is an important topic. But I'm ignorant to Sex and the City too. But I thought that show was one. Initially, I just thought it was boring and not for me. I was a teenage boy.
It's a show about 4 white women in the city.
Yeah.
Like, that was talking about their sex lives, and I can understand why a teenage boy could not fucking relate.
I was a black teenage boy living in the hood.
Heterosexual boy on top of that.
I was a straight black teenage boy living in the hood. I was not about to watch a show about a bunch of privileged white women living in a different district of Manhattan taking advantage of people.
This is another show that I really loved, and I realized was also deeply toxic. In fact, they also... So for those who are not fans of Sex and the City or have never seen it, it's about these 4 women that live in New York City. One's a publicist, one's a lawyer, one works in an art gallery, and the other one's a columnist. Now, they all are very successful. They all live really well. But because of that, they're 4 privileged white women. And again, this was more relevant in the 90s and early 2000s. They're a little out of touch. And being out of touch was more excusable in the 90s as far as I'm concerned, because we did not achieve what we've achieved since. And even the early 2000s, pre 9/11, people were just fucking toxic as hell. And we shouldn't be enabling that now.
No.
That's why I'm glad they haven't tried to restart this show or whatever.
Well, they did those movies.
Yeah.
Do those count?
No, not really. Because they've dropped Sex and the City since then. Like, it's over now. Like, there's no more shit coming out for it.
Okay.
There was a whole episode on Sex and the City about Bi Racer as well. So I told you about this, right?
Briefly, I don't remember it.
So
Carrie
starts dating this guy. And now, mind you, Carrie herself, they all had their issues, but Carrie was self-sabotaging.
You can find us on Google and all social media at Jug O Sip Podcast.
New episodes release every Monday and Friday.